Oh shit. What's going on, y'all? I'm the Captiol. This is Balcony Talk with the 316 Project. Let's get into it. What are some values you refuse to compromise on when it comes to your art? So, this is kind of a weird one. Whenever I first started writing, one of the biggest things I was worried about was I would make similar lines to one another, or I would kind of repeat myself in a way. It's not necessarily like a moral value, but I never want to come off as repetitive, especially when it comes to a lot of the other different sounds here. There's a lot of people that sound alike, and there's a lot of people with very, very unique sounds. You know, Hippie K's got a very unique sound. Willie Two Times has a very unique sound. EKM has a very unique sound. And I never want to draw comparisons, especially when you have such a large talent pool that Wichita has. You can't really confuse yourself with anybody else. It makes it really hard, and you have a lot of people. I've had some experience with engineers that kind of want to box you into one sound. They want to do ad-libs a certain way. They want to do auto-tune a certain way, and I just really can't get behind that. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, at least, to just do the same thing over and over again. I understand having cohesive sound for the city, but I think it's the beautiful part about this place. Kansas is like a migrant city. You know, you have a lot of people coming from a lot of different places in different states. You have a lot of people coming from PR, DR, all of these other places, provinces or countries. And so there's a lot of influence, and you can't really just stick yourself in one spot. I think Michigan is another perfect example of that. You have a lot of different kinds of people in Michigan that are into a lot of kind of different things. You can't just do all of the same one. What's your approach to investing in yourself as an artist? Where do you see people selling themselves short the most? People don't value their time. I'm not gonna, mention a whole lot, but you have a lot of people. I know that EKM Facebook posted about some shit like this, where you have promoters in the city that are charging people 300, 100, whatever. And it really doesn't cost that much. There's venues here in the city that are small bar events that you can literally just film content for. It doesn't even have to be a huge turnout. You just post that shit on the internet, and eventually it just cycles back to a fan base. There's a ton of untapped potential when you get into these, a lot of unique areas. And I mean, the camera angle makes all the difference. You can make a room that's only 600 square feet seem twice as much if you just have the right angle and enough people standing in front. People short themselves in just the way that they think they're going to find success. They think they're going to find success in doing some kind of TikTok trend or whatever the fuck it is. But you need to really realize that all of that shit looks good on the camera because somebody made it look good on the camera. It's never really gonna be something that organic that fast. What's something that you wish the OGs understood about this generation of artists? So this is something I noticed with people too, but I mean, this is kind of like the old head shit where people are like, oh, all you talk about is guns, drugs, and whatever the fuck. And they pretend and this is a lot of people that are millennials and Gen X. And for millennials and Gen X, y'all make gangster rap cool. Nobody fucking talks about that. If it wasn't for Ice Cube, if it wasn't for, a lot of that West Coast gangster rap sound, it wouldn't follow through, I can understand to some terms glorifying it, but not a lot of artists do that. And they pretend just talking about these things all of a sudden means that you're validating it. That's the shit that white kids on YouTube feel whenever they see it. They talk about, oh, hip hop music is causing violence and stuff like that. Number one consumer of all hip hop music is white people. If that was the case, you'd see way more shit in suburban communities than you actually do. And a lot of that shit is underreporting, to be completely honest with you. But the way that people talk about it is different. They make it sound a little bit different, and I think people aren't just used to the sounds. One of the most dopest artists that I think I've ever listened to, that's part of like the newer up and comers, is Kenny Mason, and he talks about all of that shit consistently and puts it such vivid imagery and different unique sounds. He has kind of like a Lil Wayne influence, like a rebirth in a way, but actually makes it sound good. But I never really understand people talking about, all you talk about is guns and drugs. That's all hip hop's really been for the last 20 years, Do
you think it's intentional that that sector of hip hop seems to be at the forefront versus, putting more light on the different pockets? Because a lot of people talk about like, there's different areas of hip hop and everybody's kind of being lumped into one thing. But they kind of feel like more of the violent natures is kind of like the formula. Like some of the other hip hop platforms, they have a tendency to showcase a lot of people within like the same type of pocket. Basically, they're not going to have a lot of conscious, air quote, like rappers on there.
That's such a boom bap. Oh my god, I'm so glad you bring that up. Yes, because I just got finished. There's a really great content creator called FD Signifier. I fucking love his videos, and he just got finished talking about Lupe.
I do like FD. He's cool.
Lupe grew up in, from what I understand, he grew up in like the lower class suburbs of Chicago, and his dad was a Black Panther that taught young Black revolutionaries like martial arts and shit. What makes that so fucking cool is that Lupe has, and I'm biting some of what FD said in that video, but Lupe has every right to talk about this and that and this and that because it is more like marketably successful. That image of selling something that suburban white kids, the most rich consumerist base can't have necessarily. They don't have it in their lives, so they think it's exciting. They entertain it through like movies or music or video games and all this other stuff. They can't have that, so they push this idea, not only because it serves as a form of entertainment by essentially exploiting Black trauma, but it also gives them something to feel that they haven't felt before. The most dangerous thing on this planet is somebody with nothing to do, because they will latch onto anything and anyone in any way they can to just get a sense of like belonging.
Right.
Let me see. In what ways has music helped you figure out who you are? It's helped a lot. Whenever I was a kid, so I grew up, so to follow the roadmap loosely, I was born in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, on the west side. That's where all the reservations are. My dad's half Cherokee. And then for like the majority of my life, as it stands now, I lived in Independence, Kansas. There isn't shit to do there. There's almost fucking nothing. In fact, being outside is more of a detriment to you than it is just staying inside. Independence for years now has been number 1 or number 2 in murder statistics. It's pretty bad. There's a lot of drugs, a lot of methamphetamines, a lot of shit like that. Music gave me a way to express myself that wasn't putting myself in inherent danger. And also, when I moved out of Independence into this area, it gave me a sense of belonging, gave me something to necessarily do. Music helped me realize that I hurt a lot of people in a lot of ways that I didn't mean to, whether it was because of misogyny or whatever has it. It just made me realize that not only does everybody else have dirt, but I'm just as messy as everyone else. It also made me realize how I view people, inherently. I'm very short-tempered when it comes to like people fucking up, because sometimes I fail to understand their perspective. It could be somebody that slights me in a certain way, or they say something they weren't supposed to say, and my initial reaction is to just get at it. But whenever you're first writing rap music and you're starting to, you know, try to be your own, your favorite artist, so you're trying to emulate them or whatever, you'll start to pick up on certain things that you're writing down, and you're like, if I said this or I did this or, you know, whatever to somebody, that would be really fucked up. But this is the headspace that I'm in. It teaches you empathy in a way that I don't think you can really get from a lot of other spaces. And that definitely helped me towards my growth of just really understanding who I am and the ways that my actions affect people. Something that I didn't really need to understand because of, you know, just where I was in my life. It was, you know, the dominant position I was in my life. I didn't really get a chance to think about the way that my actions affected the people that it hurt. So, let's see. What do you love most about hip hop? What does it need less of? So, first and foremost, the greatest thing about hip hop is that it is such a chameleon of a form. You can do any little subgenre, mix it in any other way. The best example of this is the existence of both rock rap and jazz rap. Such two completely different things, especially when you look at like rock music as a whole. Rock music is very, very like, you need to do this in this specific way, and there's a bunch of different genres. Jazz, on the other hand, though, is just so cut loose. It's so everywhere. It's just what feels right. Of course, you're gonna have like correct tempos and scales or whatever, but the hip hop is such an expressive mode, and it's done it in such a radical way. It doesn't rely on the inoffensive sounds or the methods of like making like pacifying music, shit that doesn't really, you know, electrify a bass in a certain way. But what it needs less of is people that are, this isn't even about artists, people that are in this fucking industry and just usually or just simply use it as a means of like collecting wealth off of like youth. That shit pisses me off so much. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of people like showrunners and shit that will fuck you over just by a price marker. You could be, I know artists in the city that work at Taco Bell, that work at Arby's, and they're not making the rates to pay for these shows consistently and be a successful artist and still come out on top. 90% of the artists that I've ever worked with are like in the thousands negative, you know, when it comes to how much money they're putting into this versus how much they're receiving. There is a lot of predators in this space.
I was gonna say, they're kind of like a very predatory practices
Yeah.
going on that's kind of hindering people from developing the way that they need to.
Yeah, there's not enough community in that sense. Not a lot of people are willing to speak up, and a part of that comes from how many toes do I step on before I end up breaking my own feet and I can't move anymore? How many people do I get in the way of before someone decides you're not getting anywhere? And I mean, it's like you said, predators in the literal sense and in the metaphorical sense. You know, people predating on, you know, artists and exploiting them for certain talents or looking at them a certain way. And then you have the metaphorical sense of like, if they could, they would kind of thing, you know? Mm-hmm. The people have just a weird fucking mindset about it. Everyone's so hyper individualistic. Nobody really, and that isn't to say, because I know I might disagree with some people on this, but like hip hop inherently is just like I can outperform you and I'm going to show you how, and that's what makes it so fun. I don't know if anybody watching is like playing fighting games and shit like that, but hip hop to me is exactly like a Tekken or a Mortal Kombat. Y'all can be friends, but y'all can still compete by just bodying someone else. I can get on a song with somebody and we can be cool We can be friends, I can be, really great collaborators, but at the end of the day, both of our jobs is to make a better verse than the other person, to make a better melody than the other person. I know a lot of people disagree with that and they want to see it more of like a collaborative project, which it is in some instances, but when it comes to bars, writing raps, all of that shit, it really is just like a fighting game. You're picking your character, you're picking your verse, and you are trying to just smoke the other person without being an asshole, essentially. You don't want to just get on the track and start being like, fuck this dude, but you do want to have like a sense of competitiveness in it. You never want to seem stagnant, or like a lot of these pop records where it's like scientifically engineered to hit the ear in the same way. That shit doesn't feel right.
With the people who are kind of facilitating shows, either be online or in person for people to attend. A lot of those people have the tendency to say, well, I need to get paid too. It costs a lot of money to do this.
But they're never upfront with that. That's never the thing that they say. They always point it as like, I'm giving you the opportunity. No, I'm paying your back end. You didn't make whatever in sales, or you're not gonna make whatever at the door. I'm covering your back end in case shit goes south. They never really explain it in that sort of way. I feel like if you had a collective of artists in the area, it doesn't have to be every fucking Lil whatever or this and that, but just a solid collective of artists. If you're honest with them and being like, this shit costs a lot of money, because it does, you don't get to host the coalition and all this other stuff for free, unless you're one or two artists, but you don't usually get to host that shit for free. So it does take a lot of money, but if you're upfront and honest about that, a lot more people are gonna be inviting towards it. But what it becomes is, I'm doing you a favor. You should be thanking me. I'm putting you in this position. No. Again, I'm covering the back end. I'm making sure you can host this and you don't end up broke after it. Because after the Mozzie situation, hip hop is like on thin ice here.
Oh yeah.
And that wasn't even like Wichita's fault. That's people misconstruing shit way beyond the point of what it is. Remember, artists, when you go out to a show, people aren't there to see the person hosting. They're there to see you. They're there to see local artists. They might not even know your name, but they're like, okay, let's see what this person got. Okay, let's see that. They're not always here to see the headliners. They're not always here to see the biggest name come out and perform. They're there to see you. They're there for entertainment, not to look at a stage. They're not looking for the event. They're not looking for the venue. Do you think artists have a responsibility to their community? Yeah. It depends, right? Never go out of your way to do something for somebody that can't reciprocate that kind of energy for you. Maybe not all the time, but just as a general rule. Never put yourself out past somebody that isn't willing to put the same effort into you. But what you do need to understand in this kind of community where hip hop is only big in Kansas and in Kansas City and some parts of Lawrence, your community is everything. Nobody else is gonna give you the platform. No one else is gonna, hey yo, go check out this dude that does this. I've been listening to this guy. I got a friend who I got a friend that lives in Kansas City, and his homegirl cuts Tech Nine's wife's hair. That isn't like a to B, but that's separation of degrees, and because I'm good to that person, they're like, hey, I'm gonna go put in a word in for this and this.
Right.
I'm gonna go out and talk to this person. If you're not cool with your community, whether it be your city, your neighborhood, whatever it be, if you're not cool with them, they're not gonna do favors for you to make sure you succeed. it's a quid pro quo in a way, but it's not necessarily that like predatory, I guess. It's not.
There's just not much incentive to, I guess, be there for one another if you are kind of living on some poor codes, I guess, and taking advantage of people.
Yeah, there's always gonna be somebody that takes advantage of the good faith of somebody that's helping them out. You know, I kind of fell victim to that whenever I first started out. There was an artist that I was running around for a while with, and it was just always something. He'd always talk down to me in a certain way. He'd always kind of like push me in a direction, even though I was making more progress than him. And if I didn't include him on that progress that he didn't work towards whatsoever, all of a sudden I'm the problem, you know?
You're not loyal.
It's weird. I know I said that a lot already, but only give what you can. Don't push yourself out too far for people that aren't willing to help you. Community means all members participate. If you find somebody that isn't participating in that community, they can go somewhere else. They can find somewhere else to do it. If they got it on their own, they got it on their own. They don't need help. And a lot of the people that think they can do that can't. They're gonna fail. They're gonna fail horribly. It's like all these people that talk about, oh, why am I paying taxes to like firefighters or paramedics? Don't. Get your house caught on fire. Have a heart attack. See who helps you then. You know, if that's the way you want to participate, if you think you can do it on your own, die at 43. See if that makes a difference to anyone else. You're not participating in anything. You're not contributing in anything. Nobody's going to give anything to you. What inspired you to take up the pen? So it from an earlier question, it really bred out of me not having a way to just express the shit that I wanted to say and make it like well known. I'm very much like a change-oriented person, where if I feel like somebody's stagnating, they aren't moving, they aren't trying to become a better person, I can't be around them for too long. It makes me angry, which I know is a problem within its own. But back to that friend that I was talking about earlier, you know, he had his own troubles going on, and I basically told him, I was like, these are all the steps in your life where you are just ruining everything on your own. And then he'd come back and he'd be like, nah bro, it's these bitches, it's these lame ass it's just deflection. If you don't see the problems that you're creating in your own life and you aren't looking to fix them, and I know that not everybody is going to be all perceiving into what they are themselves. I struggle with that all the time, but that's why I rely on my friends to correct me, and then I take those corrections to heart. But if I'm going to tell you, you are ruining your life, and then you look at me and you blame it on somebody else, or you blame it on me, I can't vibe with that. But the number one thing that inspired just everything that I've done music-wise is just expression. I needed something to express, and ever since I was a kid, I'm gonna make this public because I've talked about a lot of this in private conversations. Chameleonaire is my favorite artist.
Really?
A lot of people think I'm weird for that because they go Chameleonaire, the riding dirty dude, and he is so much more than that. Chameleonaire, not only as an artist but as a person, what he represents of not everything has to be a public stunt. You can make your music on one side and, you know, do what you need to on the other side. Not everything has to be intertwined. You don't have to be Jay-Z. Millionaire made such good music, especially during the bling era, that he doesn't get enough credit for, and he spoke on shit so much earlier. Chameleonaire has something called, I think, Hip Hop Police. I think that's the name of the song, where he talks about the Iraq War, like way before anybody else does. This is something people joke about in songs, talking about how George Bush is, making up all these lies about, weapons of mass destruction and all this other stuff, like actively going out and talking about it. And then Breaking News is the name of the song. Hip Hop Police is the one with Slick Rick, where he talks about people in rap music snitching on other rappers for their own kind of like safety. But Chamillionaire is just such an inspirational artist. He just, it was like a year ago or two, but he released a song with Toby Nwigwe and 2 Chainz.
I didn't even know he was still making music. I thought
he does like features. He does like features right now.
Oh, okay.
But he pretty much just like went back to, talking about, I was broke. I did all this stuff to get back up from it. And you should model for my success. That's what people need to do. They need to be icons for all the people that are still struggling. This is how you get out of it. This is how, for Chamillionaire was make your big song. And then if you don't fuck with it anymore, put it away and build your investments and wealth in somewhere else and live your life the way you need to. Because as far as I know, Chamillionaire has never really been in anything that's like, it's never been like some Jay-Z stuff where like he made somebody sign a deal and then ruin their life because of it. Yeah. Nobody got Joe Budden as far as I know. But just as an artist too, not enough people give him credit for the hooks he was able to create, his writing style, his rhyme schemes. They were all signs of just a great rapper. He might not be the best technically skilled or like the most versatile. He might not be like as like dense and heavy with flows and bars like Eminem, or like he might not be as versatile as Kendrick, or he might not be, as eccentric as like Lil Wayne. But Chamillionaire is just such a dope artist that stood for so many like interesting things that you didn't see in hip hop for such a long time. And that's part of what is like that huge inspiration for me. The fact that you can make that success and not have to sacrifice literally fucking everything to get there. What kind of energy do you bring to the stage? One of my best performances was at Lion's Den, working with one of the more like local label areas. And it was like a 20-30 minute set, give or take. It was one of the best sets that I've ever done. I love giving just raw, fucking unadulterated, just energy towards shit. I don't want to perform a sad song and look hype doing it. I want that shit to me, it's a performance. If I could get a bunch of background dancers to do a bunch of crazy shit like Tyler the Creator does at his shows, that's what I would be doing right now. But that shit costs a lot of money and takes a lot of time that I just don't have right now. So I guess the energy that I bring and the energy that I want to bring is like 2 separate things right now. It's a building process, but I want people to feel the things I'm saying. If I say a lyric, I'm gonna look you in the eyes while I say it, Not on no Ty Dolla $ign shit. That shit was weird. But on some real energy. If I'm talking about something that's real, I'm gonna make sure you understand. This shit is not just a cool bar that I thought about 3 minutes in and I just decided to write down and throw it in as a filler. Every word is intentional. Every rhyme scheme is intentional. The way that it's put in is intentional. And I want people to feel that as I'm performing it. If I'm angry in a song, I want people to feel that. I want people to see that in an unadulterated way that isn't going to be censored or made to just look fun for the sake of fun. Mm-hmm. That might not be every song. It's okay to, enjoy life sometimes. Not everybody has to be fucking depressed, but, be genuine. Don't talk about how good your life is and then rap like Jadakiss, You don't have to sound so fucking angry all the time. It's okay to be happy. It's okay to be sad.
Is there anybody who's kind of inspired you in terms of like developing your stage presence? Do you feel like naturally you had that figured
local
out?
Or like?
Just anybody.
So if we're talking about local, Keontre is fucking awesome. He's such a good fucking performer, bro. He has all of the moves down. He has all of his lyrics memorized. That shit that like I still feel anxious about like doing it with no backtrack in the background because I'm afraid that I'm gonna run out of breath because I'm not very in shape. I'm afraid that like I'm gonna forget a lyric, or it's a separate verse that I written to a separate song that happened to fit within like the whatever. But Keontre is such a dope performer that whenever he gets on the stage, he commands presence. You know, he commands attention. He doesn't even have to say, everyone come up here. When he does it in such an eccentric way that makes you pay attention. If we're talking about overall stage presence just from really anybody, Tyler the Creator and Megan Thee Stallion are great performers. They are excellent performers. They have stage setups, they have choreography, they have so many different things. One of the most entertaining parts about female artists in rap music, period, is their ability to create a scene in an environment whenever they're performing.
Yes, I would agree with that. I feel like that usually comes up quite a bit. I feel like a lot of male performers return. I don't know if there's a fear or a stigma, or maybe they don't have the right team to develop these concepts.
It's dudes being dudes. That's what I think it is for the most part. Like whenever you look at like a lot of male artists, there's this like stone wall they have to put up, and they have to look all like tough and whatever. They can't have all this like
needs more glitter.
I was gonna say, excuse my language, but like a lot of them feel like it's like, oh, that's gay shit. Like, no, it's not. It's having fun. It's having fucking fun. I like, don't be a fucking weirdo theater kid and just like make shit like really gross and in ways it doesn't need to be. Don't be superficial about it. Don't make it seem like it's some like heavy thing that you got to study into, and if you don't do it in this specific way with this kind of mindset, you're failing it and you're doing wrong. Have fun with it. Think of good ideas to come up with. Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, that little tour where he's got like the puppet at the piano, he's got all these different stage lights in the background and doing all this stuff. That is what I want to do. That is what inspires me to keep performing. That's what makes me feel energetic. Seeing that stuff and wanting to do that stuff, I can see it in my head. I can see the vision for it. Who's a part of your dream collaboration? I'm gonna throw out the name just Chameleonaire, just because, again, he's the whole reason that I even got introduced to the way that I was doing things. That and Outcast, but that one is, as they get older, I'm more and more worried I'm not gonna be able to do that. But I'll say, for like, if somebody texted my phone right now and was like, yo, so-and-so wants to collab, I'm blocking every DM, I'm unfollowing every person that's getting in my way. It would definitely be Kendrick. He's such a fucking dope artist, and that's an artist that you can really give any kind of song and he'll have something to deliver on it. The motherfucker made a feature for New Freezer for Rich the Kid, and then just a couple years later made To Pimp a Butterfly, which is one of the most like influential jazz rap albums that has ever come out, you know. That is what Kendrick thinks like is like the perfect Kendrick album in my head. And then he turned around and did Damn, which is full of a bunch of like 808s and heavy aggression and bass and so many different things. And also the fact of like, while some of it I will agree is performative, he's able to speak on issues in a way that is just so clever. Something that's been in rotation for since it came out, the last, what is it, the 17th? 16th? So 17th. This is 17th. Something I've been bumping for the last 6 days, so pretty much for a week, is that that Chains That Whip song from Clips. And Kendrick has that kind of alliteration, and he does it in a way that also speaks on like his like views on hip hop and all this other shit. So that would be my dream, like sit down with him and just start writing and coming up with ideas and things for a song. Like that's really what I'm looking for. Chameleonaire though is just, this is where my roots are. That's the dude I grew up listening to. I want to do that. What's a bar you're most proud of? I'm trying to think real quick. There's a couple. So I'll give one from an unreleased. That's probably not gonna really come out. All these it's all these photos candid, right? Your perception may be right, but mirrors play off angled light. That was just like a cool little, like I wrote it out and I was like, ooh, ooh. I saw that and I was like, that's so fucking dope. But something that's more out is from 31620, and it's got two references in it technically. But the first one is the one that everyone references, and it's the Lauryn Hill pressure bust pipes or whatever. There's a scheme I have in there where it's growing up on flood hills, but the pressure busts out the fuck, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's on there. It's on my verse on 31620. Start streaming that shit, because that is one of the craziest, most like coherent pieces of music that I've made. There's also a song in something I have cooking up for the album that I'm making. The track is titled The Truth. I'm going to be performing it in 3 days at the Lighthouse, so look out for it.
Sun Jam.
Trying to go through the whole verse in my head and try to remember, because it's easy to go from the start to the finish, but getting in the middle is the hard part. It's essentially a play between I met a girl named Moxie, and then her beauty like it was a bunch of a rose or whatever, and then playing that into the Tupac poem that everyone recites about the rose and the concrete. And then I think I did one where I copied Maki, not Zenin but Veli, and that's a JJK reference. I don't know if any of y'all watch anime, but there's a character in there named Maki Zenin, and that's a play on the previous one that's supposed to be a reference between that song and Tupac's poem, because Tupac technically has the name wrong in Machiavelli, because the technical pronunciation of it is Machiavelli, but his album is Machiavelli. And I think there's an intentional reason that he misspells it, but that whole like scheme that I have in that song, that's a lot of the shit that I'm most proud of isn't fucking released yet, because I'm still having to do videos and mixing and mastering and shit like that. And it's so hard to do a fucking rollout. It's so hard to do like a combination of shit. But that's the shit I'm most proud of right now, shit y'all haven't heard yet. So keep your fucking ears out. How do you stay inspired and grounded as an artist? So addiction is like a huge thing in my family. It goes throughout so many generations, and for me, music is that same one. If I don't get in the studio after a couple weeks, I feel like genuinely depressed. Like I feel like I'm wasting my time. I've wasted so much money. I've wasted so much time. I've wasted so much people's time. I've done stuff where I could be, furthering a career somewhere else and doing something else, but getting back in the studio, learning mixing processes or like how to start producing and stuff like that, taking genuine fun and experimenting is what has consistently made me remember I am both the dopest artist that I ever known, and I don't know shit. I don't know shit about shit. Somebody brought up EQ to me and I didn't even know what that stood for. Someone brought up yeah, like balancing like vocals and shit. Someone brought up like different like plugins for like production and stuff like that. I don't know anything about any of that. I don't know. I tried to download FL Studio. Oh my god. And I think I have 11. I could be wrong. No, I have 21. I have FL 21. And I was trying to learn how to do all this shit. There was a separate time I was working with Yerv, and he had like his whole like production thing set out, and I was like, hey, do you mind if I just mess around with it? Because we were just fucking around with music or whatever. We were like working on a specific thing, and he was like, go ahead. And I tried to do the keys, and I couldn't figure out how to drag the fucking the note down. I was struggling so hard. He was just watching me, waiting for me to say something. I looked like that photo of Young Thug and Lil Durk, where Durk is just staring up at Thug, and Thug is like leaning over on the computer and like messing with shit. Constantly reminding myself that I don't know anything about music makes me excited, because that means I can learn more from it. I can find more dope shit to do. Doing the 31620 skit with EKM, where he comes in and I'm trying to do a mic drop video with the tight ass hoodie on and the broken sunglasses and shit like that. It's fun. It's fun doing stuff like that, man. It adds a little bit of brevity to it, and it doesn't make everything so serious where it's just the music. It's an art. It's a performance. Go out there and fucking perform. Make art. Make something that means something to you. What do we got? What are some of the main themes that appear in your music? I'll kind of break them down, but poverty, drugs, and violence, and that one's more of a broad category because it means a lot of different things, but I'll touch on the shortest ones. Poverty for the most part, because I come from it'd be 3 generations of teen pregnancy, living in Southeast Kansas, with like no financial support. It's rough. Of course there are people that had it infinitely worse than me, and that makes me, it doesn't make me feel better by any means, but it does make me feel not alone, I guess, in that sense. There's always somebody that's going through the same thing as you, so it's never just like a you thing. Drugs, because again, that's something that run in my family since my great grandmother. Everyone was an addict. I don't think I can think of a single person in my family that wasn't an addict. My dad was an addict. My mom was an addict. My grandma, my grandpa, on both sides of the family. There's something that,
very deep rooted.
Yeah, it goes so far, and it's really a generational curse. You grow up watching people struggle to understand mediation, and you think it's normal, and I think it's something normal. I go way too hard into shit that is killing me slowly. I remember when I was a kid, when I first started drinking, the first day that I did it, I knew that I couldn't do it by myself, like without somebody else in the room, because I wouldn't be able to control myself. I wouldn't be able to limit myself. And I do the same shit with music. I push myself way too hard, and the second that I don't get to do it anymore, I feel worthless. And that's really what it is. If you don't have that dopamine rush, if you don't have that chemical in your brain constantly getting fed, you feel fucking worthless. You feel like you're nothing without it, at the very least. One of the best songs that pushes on it, and it's so sad to say this because he was such a dope fucking artist, and now he's doing like gimmicks and shit, but Eminem has a song called Deja Vu, where he speaks on this exact same thing, where maybe if I indulge just a little bit more, I'll be able to do what I need to do, or I won't feel as shitty, I won't feel depressed, I won't feel worthless. And that's what I like to press on, a lot of the fact of, this is something that everyone feels, especially the people that have moved past it. I'm lucky I didn't fall into some hard shit like my mom and my dad did. I'm very fortunate. That's why I say that, I didn't even have it the worst growing up, because I had so many mistakes to learn from that I didn't want to follow in those footsteps. But the last one is violence. I'm someone that has participated and is a victim to violence. And I think that's true for a lot of people. They just don't want to accept the term. So you have people like that have failed relationships where it might not be explicit, but they threaten their partner in some way. They threaten to take something from them, whether or not it's physical or emotional or mental. That's still violence. You're still causing that pain to somebody that makes them cling so desperately to it. I grew up in like various abusive households. And I still see that, you know, whenever I was like younger, because I'm still young. But whenever I was younger, whenever I was a preteen, I saw violence as a means of a way to treat people whenever they did something wrong in my eyes, you know? And that just was never a right thing to me. And I think it's really good, at least in my music, what I touch on is that what's more important than taking something away is exposing how they're doing it to themselves. It's hard to find a way to word this without being an asshole, but people fuck up their own lives in so many various different ways, and they hurt themselves in so many various different ways. That in my music, being able to shine a light on that by exposing the ways that I did it to myself or the way that I did it to other people, people can use that as a reflection, as a wake-up call to be like, no, it isn't okay that you talked to her that way. No, it isn't okay that you were treated that way. YG has a song recently where he talks about getting abused as a child by an older woman.
Yeah, it was a very impactful track to come out.
Yeah.
It's done a lot.
It's good to not hold anything back. And that's why I think what I try to do with my music. Of course, there's a certain level of barrier you have to put up before you start like exposing real people's names. I have a song out with Soho right now called Decembers, talking about my older cousin and the way that she treated her kids and abandoning them and leaving them to grow up in a household that had already raised, with two people that had already raised 3 different generations on their own. And that just, it didn't sit right with me because that's very reminiscent of what I had to go through growing up. And they're only probably 10 years younger than me right now, give or take. And that's really what I think I want to speak on for the most part. Shit that has infected my family and making it relatable to somebody else. Nobody goes through anything by themselves. Nobody goes through anything alone. And if you can relate that to your life, and if you can find the problem there and you can start to heal it, it doesn't have to be immediate, but if you can start to fix it, that's really all I want from any person ever. Recognize your problems, find a solution, break the cycle. What's an important lesson you've learned so far in your creative journey? Repeat mistakes. I'm a horrible singer. Like, just as a singer, I used to be good. I used to be in choir. I'm a horrible singer right now. I haven't practiced in so long, but I want to get better, and I want to find creative ways to do singing in an unconventional manner. I don't really think that there is a right way to do that stuff in terms of creativity. You can find different ways to use auto-tune or different vocal effects, make your voice sound so strained and so raspy that it sounds like a Tyler the Creator kind of thing, where you hear songs like him, where he is just belting out this like powerful emotion. It doesn't necessarily like sound good. It sounds good, it sounds real, it sounds raw, but it's not like Sabrina Carpenter or you know, all these other different artists that like are really good at singing. Also, something is, don't do the same shit over and over. If you have a song that sounds a certain way, don't make the same song.
I think a lot of people fall into that.
Yeah, there's basically, if your whole sound can fit onto a YouTube type beat, you're doing something wrong. I don't think, and there's nothing wrong with using those type beats, because I know a couple artists in the city that have really amazing songs that I have on my playlist right now that have got that shit from SoundCloud or YouTube. But the way that you build a song should be different every time. The way that you do a hook should be different every time. What you're saying in the song should be different every time. That doesn't mean don't hit on the same notes. but say it in a different way.
Just your process.
Yeah, give a different delivery to it. All right, this last one is short. What's next for you this year?
Right at the end.
Right at the end. That's like a perfect fucking closer. So I got a couple things going on. Of course, I got this interview. I got one of those support system sound checks coming out with front steps. I got a performance on the 20th at the Lighthouse Sun Jam, hosted by Wichita Promo and Keontre. I got a music video that I'm working on. What is today? Thursday? So I'm working on it Saturday for a track titled Let Me Know. It's a song that I've been performing for half a year now. And it's something that I'm really excited to put out because I feel like that song in all three of its verses is the perfect culmination for what I stand for as an artist. It is really like my anthem as it stands right now. And then I think that's it. I got the album coming out too. So there's 2 music videos, but the one that I'm gonna talk about right now is Let Me Know. The full album, I've talked about it a couple times, is titled A Path's End. It's about my journey going from independence, indie, all the way to where I am now. Kind of like a past, present, future, learning the mistakes of the previous to kind of build where I am now. And you'll see that in the track list. It's built down in 4 different sections. So you have 4 tracks produced by Wizard Mac, you have 4 tracks produced by S.E. Trill, and you have 4 tracks produced by Yerv. And all of those 4 tracks have very unique sounds within themselves that are supposed to kind of build off of one another. So the 4th track, in a way, is going to be a response to the 8th track. The 8th track, in the way, is going to be the 12th is going to be a response to the 8th. The 11th is going to be a response to the 7th, which is a response to the 3rd. And it kind of goes out like that. So they have their own mini narratives inside them, but when you put it all together, it makes one big collective idea. So that's all I have, I think, going on for this year. Yeah, I think that's it. I think we're up. We're empty.
All right. Tell the people where they can find you on socials and your streaming platforms.
So for socials, I really only post to one thing. I just post to Instagram. I'm really bad at communicating. I'm really bad at networking. I primarily have to thank Wichita Promo for even being where I am right now in the circles that I am, because I fucking suck at doing like all of the posting shit and content. I'm trying to get better at it, but I really suck at it right now. So you can mainly find me on Instagram. You can just look up the Captiol. Make sure you put an O, not an A. There's a lot of mistakes that people make, but make sure to put an O and not an A at the end. And then I'm on pretty much all streaming platforms. Same thing to Captiol. I have one full little mixtape, 1050, and then I have an EP that I'm working on the sequel with right now with Yerv called AI, which is short for author illustrator. And that's a really dope experimental little 6-track piece that I have right there. And then the first single for The Path's End is out right now, titled 31620, featuring one of the hardest fucking working people in this city right now, no EKM. He also delivers so heavy on that.
That's one of my favorite songs.
I fucking love that shit, bro. Just as like a creative experiment, it's so good. Whenever y'all are making like songs with featured artists, include them. Make sure it feels more that they are in the song than just on the song. For example, on that one, the secret that I did is I left the chorus part extra long, so I had enough for my chorus part, and then I told EKM, fit this in here too to kind of mirror it. And that way it feels more as a collaborative project, because it's something that you build on top of the idea with. I think he was in the studio whenever we were making the beat for it. And I made sure that I tailor-made this one to him. And I make sure to do that for every artist that you work with. Tailor-make your beats for an artist you want to feature with on it. Sometimes mistakes are going to happen, and it just so happens to go with this artist, or he's like, hey, can I feature on this? Do that shit too. But whenever you're making like a project put together, make songs specifically for artists. It's not always going to go out the way you need it to, and that's how you can kind of learn to adapt. And maybe, you know, let's say there's just for example, there's somebody that you work with a lot, and they want to branch out in a certain way. Have them do it as a feature. You know, a lot of people are uncomfortable putting something out as a song by themselves that doesn't necessarily fit their style. Put that shit out as a feature with them, so that way they get to experiment with a lot more. One of the artists I'm working with right now that I think is my favorite artist to collaborate with is Omen H. Fucking dope lyricist, dope artist. He puts out such consistent work. But I want to do songs with him that sound like nothing he's ever put out before. And I think that is such a cool thing that you can do in music, where you can collaborate with somebody and just share ideas and different delivery methods and stuff like that. He's gonna be on the album too, and the song we got on together is so fucking interwoven and tight-knit. I don't want to spoil too much about the song itself, but it's such a fucking amazing process. This is what I love doing, yo. I love making this music shit. But back to the streaming shit. Stream 31620. That shit is going to be a perfect summary for the first quarter of the album. Look out for Let Me Know. That's going to be a perfect summary to the second quarter, third of the album. And then there's one more coming out after that. And I'll start teasing that shit when that shit's more important. But keep an eye out.